Apparently, this new speed frame, which sits behind the face on the new Callaway drivers, is going to help you hit it longer, straighter, more consistently than ever before. Let's see if that's the case. So the new Callaway drivers they're releasing for 2021 are called the Epic. Now we've heard that name before with Callaway drivers. It goes back 4 years ago when they first brought out the Great Big Bertha Epic drivers. Actually, I had one of those in the bag, which I'll come to later on. 2 years later, we saw the Epic Flash. And now 2 years after that, we see the Epic lineup. Now there's 3 drivers in this new lineup. Epic Speed, there's an Epic Max and an Epic Max LS, which is low spin. So 3 new drivers in the lineup. I test them out on the golf course, at the driving range, and here in the home simulator on GC Quad. And also, I pulled out my original Epic driver from 4 years ago to see how much of a difference there is. So when I think about the Epic lineup, instantly I think about Jailbreak. 4 years ago when it was first introduced, these 2 bars that sat behind the face that helped keep the face more rigid, helped with more ball speed off that club face. Then a new version came out with the Epic Flash, and now we see this newer version. Now they're calling it Jailbreak AI Speed Frame, and it's the way they've utilised the technology that they have with this supercomputer. It's all singing, all dancing computer, and they've spat in all this information and said, make this face as fast as possible. So the new speed frame has altered slightly. You can see it's got more bars at the top, it's got more connection points at the bottom, and effectively it's supposed to make the ball come off the face faster and more reliable across the face, more consistent on miss hits. I test that theory in this video. So the first place I went was to the driving range to test these 3 drivers out. Started off with the Epic Speed first. Now, I took this opportunity to not only just warm up, but also get my first initial thoughts of the drivers behind the golf ball, how they look, how they feel. I wasn't massively looking for performance, because obviously I was just whacking range balls with no massive consequence. For me, the Epic Speed driver head this year is beautiful. It is so classic. Like, it almost doesn't even look like a Callaway driver head. Now that sounds a bit daft, but it looks much more like a player's head. It looks more like a Titleist driver behind the golf ball. And as we've seen in previous years, Callaway have gone with this green colouring with the Epic franchise, and it certainly does stand out really nice. And again, sound, hitting it in the driving range was fantastic. Really, really familiar, almost like dead noise that I got from the original Epic all those years ago. And then I moved into the Epic Max. Now, behind the golf ball, the head shape of this was much bigger, seemed much more confident boosting. I would imagine golfers who struggle with driver would prefer to hit the Epic Max. For me, sound-wise and feel-wise, was very similar to the Speed, however. Then I moved into the Epic Max LS. This is the low spin model this year. Similar head shape to the Max, if I'm honest. I didn't really see that much difference in head shape at all. And again, feel and sound was very familiar and very similar to the other 2 also. Now, it's all well and good smashing drivers on a driving range when there's no real consequence. But I wanted to take them out on the golf course where you didn't just want to hit them into the trees or the water or lose the golf balls. And also I wanted to hit Pro V1s. Started off with the Epic Speed first. Performance-wise, really solid. I felt like the ball flight was really strong. I felt like it performed very well off off-centered hits, which made me very excited to test that with the launch monitor. And again, sound-wise, when I was outside on the golf course, sounds awesome. Really a big fan of that Epic Speed driver this year. Then I hit the Epic Max driver. Difference in performance. I would definitely say it was easier to hit than the Speed. I felt like the ball flight was a little bit higher. I felt like it was spinning up a little bit more. And if I'm honest, I hit a lot of fairways with the Max. It felt like it was a driver that was a little bit more similar to the ping drivers I've tested earlier this year, the G425s. It felt like it was much more similar to performance of that. Then I tested the LS, the low spin. Now, typically, when a brand brings out a driver that's a bit more low spin, you see on your good shots, they go further, yes, but on your bad shots, typically you get a little bit more punished. Now, I've got to say, with this low spin driver this year, I don't actually think it's that low spin. out on the golf course, it felt so similar in performance and feel and looks to the Epic Max, the one that should be nice and forgiving. It's a weird one that this year. It just doesn't feel like the lineup is super simple, because it got me thinking, well, who's the Speed for? Who is the Max for? And who is the Max LS for? It just feels like they cater for everybody but nobody at the same time. So what I mean by that is, I don't feel like the Speed driver is only for a certain type of golfer this year. I don't feel like the Max driver is only suited to your higher handicappers, and maybe your low spin is only suited to your tour players. Now you might say that as a good thing or a bad thing. Ideally you want to go and get fitted and see which one's going to perform best for you. But it was just something I noticed, they feel super similar in performance this year. So then it was time to get them home, here in the simulator, testing them with Pro V1s on GC Quad. Now, I'll be honest, this was a very valuable test this year, because this is where we start to see little subtle differences in performance. I also pulled out the Epic driver from 4 years ago to see how much of a difference there actually is, from Jailbreak Original to now this new Jailbreak AI speed frame. Let's start off with the Speed driver first. Now this driver, again, the way it's designed, the way that the bottom of the golf club is almost flared up, is supposed to be help you swing it faster. I didn't massively see the case of that. I was swinging about 111 miles per hour, pretty much exactly where I normally swing. And I was carrying the Epic Speed driver 285 yards, which is pretty healthy. I felt like the ball speed was good, the spin rate was spot on for me. And the other thing I just want to call out, because I definitely saw this, I felt like the Speed driver just had a little bit of draw bias. And it might be to do with the carbon toe on the driver this year. It feels like it's taken a little bit of weight out, stuck it a fraction more towards the heel. And with the Speed, there was a definite more slight draw to the left. So then it came on to the two Max drivers, the Epic Max and the Epic Max Low Spin. I'm going to start off with the Max one first. Similar to what I saw on the golf course, it just seems super easy to hit. So I definitely hit the Max straighter. It didn't quite go as far for me at 282 carry, just because it spun up a little bit more than the Speed. But again, that's what I'd kind of expect from this Max driver. It seemed more forgiving, it seemed easier to hit, yes, which is a positive. And then finally, this is the one, I've got to be honest, it surprised me, the low spin driver. Out on the golf course, I didn't see it as being a low spin driver. It didn't feel like I got punished at all on the driving range or out on the golf course for this super low spin driver. Testing it on GC Quad, you get real data and you get proper information, facts. It is a lower spinning driver, roughly about 200 RPM lower spin. And as a result, for me, it actually carried the furthest at 286 carry. And again, all of the drivers on average, testing it today, I was swinging them at 111 miles per hour. Now, something else I picked up on, just throughout the testing of all the drivers that I hit, there was obviously times where I didn't hit it in the middle of the club face. Surprise, surprise, I'm not a robot. Now this one particular, I hit very much from the low heel, and I would typically see maybe 10 to 15 yards of drop off in performance, just naturally, because I know I didn't hit it as well. What I did find, whether this was the jailbreak, the new speed frame, or whether it was the artificial intelligence behind the face, I was only seeing 5 or 6 yards of drop off when I struck it really low from the heel, which was very, very promising. I felt that was a real good positive. Now I also wanted to test out the weight track on the Callaway Epic Max driver. I wanted to see how much influence it would have. So I stuck it all the way into the heel, the most extreme position, and found that it definitely went more left for me. Now when I stuck it all the way up into the toe, that's supposed to stop it from going left. I wouldn't say it did that, but I would say it reduced how much draw I was getting on the driver. So all in all, the LS is the one for me. I felt like I hit that really nicely. Now, one of my favorite drivers ever that I've had in the bag was the original Epic driver, the Sub-Zero I actually put in the bag. So how much difference in 4 years is there between the original Epic and the new Epic Max LS? Well, a grand total of 4 yards difference. That's 1 yard per year. That's not massively impressive, is it? Considering all the technology, the R&D, the supercomputers that go into these new drivers, it's a little bit disappointing. However, something that I definitely found out this year, saw it in the Callaway drivers, and I also saw it in the Ping drivers, is that these new versions are definitely more forgiving. So if you've got the Epic from 4 years ago, don't expect these new ones to be any longer, but do expect them to be marginally more forgiving. We'll see you next time.